I'm Chimoge, and this is Chimoge's Comments. Thank you once again for joining me. This is, of course, your weekly live stream here on Chimoge's Comments. Happens every Tuesday. The time it happens is 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time plus African time. That's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time plus African time. And tonight, the African time has taken us to 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Is what it is. African time is a beautiful thing. But anyway, thank you once again for joining me. I'm live right now on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. That's YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Shout out to Streamlabs for allowing me to multi-stream. But anyway, today I'm here to do another article analysis for y'all. And I'm going to be talking about an article from a local news station about how Mercedes-Benz got sued for discriminating against a certain demographic of customer. And you'll learn who that is in a second. But as usual, before I begin, I'm going to give y'all 4 minutes to get on the stream. So I'm just going to chill for 4 minutes, play y'all some music. In the meantime, please make sure you like the video and then also share it with people you know. And be back here in 4 minutes. All right. Wait, getting up the music. Here we go. Hold up, y'all. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to share the Twitch stream on Twitter, and fortunately, it stopped the music. My phone, that is. Um, yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me put your music back. All right, all right. That's been 4 minutes. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me pull up the article for y'all. Again, thank you so much for joining me. See a couple people in the chat right now watching the stream. Please like the video and share it with other people you know. Today, we're going to be talking about Mercedes-Benz lawsuit for discrimination. This is a few years old. Let me pull up the article here. Sorry, that's not it. Here's the article. It's an article from WTHR in Indiana. It's from October 2019, so that's just over 3 years ago. Because just to let you know, how I pick these articles actually is I have a bunch of articles on my phone that I just have open on Safari that I haven't read. And I just think, you know what? Maybe because they've just been there for years. Because I used to be the kind of guy who actually would just open up those articles, read them right away, so I never have them open. But then over time, you know, school, brain damage, unfortunately, made me a lot slower. So these articles are just open. So then recently, I just thought when I realized that you guys, particularly after looking at you know, how some of the videos did on my other channel, Chimoge's Comments America. Please check that out if you haven't already. But when I noticed you guys like article reviews, I thought, why not just review the articles I have open on my phone? Kill two birds with one stone. I get to read these articles I've been meaning to read, and then I'll also give you guys some good information, which you guys seem to like. So it's a win-win. But anyway, this article, you know, I think I had open there for a while. I think I remember the first time I remember hearing about Mercedes-Benz discriminating against clients, and as you can see here, the demographic of customers is, of course, African Americans, right? Because they were, oops, sorry, that's spam. They were sued for overcharging African American customers. But the first time I actually heard about this was actually from Dr. Umar Johnson. Shout out to Dr. Umar. No, he's a controversial figure. And I wouldn't say I agree with everything he says, but I do agree with most things he says. You know, so, you know, whatever issues people might have with him, you got to give him his props. He speaks facts most of the time. And this is another time he actually, you know, put me on to some knowledge about Mercedes-Benz overcharging African American customers. So anyway, let's go ahead and read this article. And for those of you who haven't been with me before when I've been doing an article review, how I do it is I'll read, and then after reading a bit, I'll stop, I'll give my explanation, I'll give my analysis, and every once in a while I'll also pause to see if you all have any questions or comments. So even now, just before I begin, let me just see if any of y'all have any questions or comments. No, doesn't look like it. Okay. Let's just go. Full steam ahead. Oh, and is there a video along with the article? I think what I might do is, I didn't realize there's also a video. You know, we could go ahead and watch the video as well, because this could go ahead and be a commentary reaction, right? So I think what I'll do is I'll open up the video, I'll let that play all the way through, comment on that a little bit, and then go through the article and then make more in-depth comments there. So let's see. Depends on how long the video is though as well. If this is like a are you kidding me, ads?
At Petco, you get same-day delivery of what you need when you need it. Plus a few extras. Lickety-split.
Capitalism,
For
isn't
all
it
your
wonderful,
pets'
everyone?
health and wellness needs, you can Petco and go.
I worked that long and very hard to attain that position. I wasn't about to quit.
Instead, Jeffrey Turner, a former sales manager at this Mercedes-Benz dealership in Lafayette, was fired 2 years ago. Wednesday, Turner and his attorneys filed a lawsuit against his former employer, alleging a hostile work environment and racial discrimination.
Their mantra is the best or nothing. But at this particular moment, I don't think they're the best or nothing.
Turner alleges despite being a top performer with outstanding performance awards, he was fired for reporting allegations the dealership's owner, Mike Razor, frequently used the N-word.
He said it multiple times, like 6 or 7 times.
Turner's talking about an alleged incident 2 years ago where he claims Razor used the term N-word scalping in a meeting in front of several people. According to the lawsuit, Turner understood the phrase to mean, quote, systemically overcharging African-American customers based on race. When other employees heard it too, Turner says they excused it with this.
Mr. Razor, he's old, and he was raised in a different generation than we are. He didn't mean anything by it.
Turner also claims his boss referred to him as his favorite N-word and lashed out in front of him regarding the NFL controversy surrounding African-American players kneeling during the national anthem. Turner reported the allegations to Mercedes-Benz, who he says investigated. 2 months later, Turner was fired.
In a letter to the Indiana Civil Rights Commission from the dealership's corporate attorney, he denies that Mr. Razor ever violated any employment laws or used the phrase N-word scalping. He instead says that Razor used the phrase an N-word in the woodpile, but that it was not directed at Mr. Turner. Now, we contacted that corporate attorney and were told that he no longer represents Mr. Razor, so we called Mr. Razor directly about the lawsuit, and he told us no comment.
Turner is speaking out, though, claiming...
What?
At Petco, you get same-day delivery of what you
in the
need
middle of a
when you need
2-minute
it.
video. Oh
Plus a few extras. Lickety
the
split.
same ad.
For all your pet's health and wellness needs, you can Petco it now.
End capitalism now, man.
What a win by the Indiana Pacers, who are now 500.
Yeah,
The
hold
5
up,
and
hold
5
up.
Pacers take down.
Okay, sorry, y'all. I don't know what happened with that video. I don't know if it even got to finish. That was weird. But anyway, we got the article here to read anyway, so that's okay. But just thoughts on that. Obviously, it seems like a classic case of a black man in a racist white work environment. His boss was wilding, dropping N-words all over the place. I think it's pretty telling that even when he was defending himself, he had to admit that he did use the N-word. He just tried to say he used it in a different context. But it's real interesting then that the boss talked about this thing called N-word scalping, which is what the lawsuit is about, which is where they overcharge African-American customers because they kind of see him as sitting ducks. So, you know, heart goes out to the brother who had to go through that. Hopefully in the, you know, in the future, he's not in that kind of environment. But yeah, let's read on, get into some more detail. Let me see. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? No, okay. Let's go. Mercedes-Benz sued for discrimination, overcharging African-American customers. A former sales manager at a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Lafayette, which I think is somewhere in Indiana, is now suing the business for racial discrimination. Yeah, Lafayette, somewhere in Indiana. Let's even get a idea of where exactly in Indiana Lafayette is. Let's take a look. Okay, so it looks like based off of this map, yeah, this is probably a better one. Kind of right here, sort of in the northwest part of the state, kind of towards the middle. Yeah, so let's look at the racial demographics of the area, because that area of the country generally tends to be whiter. Maybe Lafayette is a exception. I just want to get an idea of the overall environment this is taking place in. Okay, so as of the 2010 census, The racial makeup of the city was 74.2% white and only 11.2% African American. And then it looks like most of the rest were Hispanic, of, just even though Hispanic isn't a race, I think Hispanic people that are kind of racially ambiguous, people tend to treat them like a race. So, yeah, that looks like the makeup of the place. But anyway, obviously, when African Americans are such a minority there, it's easy to see how they'd be very open with their racial discrimination. Okay, let's keep going. The author is someone named Emily Longnecker. It's a bit of a funny name. No disrespect, but you don't see a name Longnecker all the time in the English language. Anyway, let's go. A former sales manager at a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Lafayette is now suing the business for racial discrimination. The lawsuit against his former employer alleges that he was, quote unquote, fired in retaliation for complaining about the owner's repeated use of the N-word, including boasting about systemically overcharging African American customers for vehicles, referring to it as, quote unquote, N-word scalping, and he used the hard R he did. So again, that is just a repeat of what we heard in the video. It looks like this case is centered around one specific Mercedes-Benz dealership, but if it's happening there, it begs the question, is it happening everywhere else, right? Let's go. According to the attorney, their client immediately took offense and reported it to Mercedes-Benz in North America. However, after reporting the racial slurs, the complaint alleges he was fired for insubordination. Okay, so this is key here, because this shows it goes to the top actually, right? Because this guy, he's in his local Mercedes-Benz branch there in Lafayette, Indiana. His boss is saying the N-word all the time. Boss calling him the N-word. The boss is talking about overcharging African American customers, and he does so while using the N-word. So all types of craziness going on there. So already you see that the boss has targeted him as an individual. And then the boss has also targeted his race as a whole because he's treating them unfairly, right? White people come in, he gives them one price. Black people comes in, he gives them another price, which is higher. So he's hurting disproportionately the black customers' pockets, right? So then this guy goes to Mercedes-Benz in North America, who is the overall organization, or at least the people who run all the Mercedes-Benzes in North America, right? Because obviously Mercedes-Benz is global, right? But basically this is their boss, right? And then they didn't take any action, and later they fired him for insubordination. So insubordination is just a fancy word for getting out of line, not respecting authority. They said, you know what, you want to shake up the boat here, you want us to stop using the N-word, you want us to stop overcharging black people, you know what, you out of line, N-word, you getting uppity, N-word, you getting uppity, boy. And they fired him. Okay, so that shows that Mercedes-Benz as a company, at least the North American wing, was fully behind this guy's racist boss and what he was doing. Okay, let's keep going. According to the lawsuit, Jeffrey Turner, that's the name of the black guy who filed the lawsuit, had been subjected to a hostile work environment because of his race. His race was a regular subject of unwelcome verbal harassment, being referred to as the quote-unquote favorite N-word. He was also a target for anger over unrelated racial issues, the attorney states in a press conference. And that's, of course, a reference to what we heard in the video about his boss getting mad at him about NFL players kneeling. So I can imagine that, at the time NFL players were kneeling because of the whole Colin Kaepernick flag protest thing. And then at least some of them, because this took place before the um, George Floyd, George Floyd's murder, or deletion, I should say. Sorry, took place before George Floyd's deletion. So this was before you had leagues en masse, just as a whole, saying that people can and should kneel, right? So this is probably individual players here and there choosing to kneel and probably getting a bit of trouble for it. And then, his boss, somehow that conversation came up, and then, the boss got mad at him for expressing his opinion. I would guess that Mr. Turner, the black guy, was in favor of the players kneeling, and his boss's racist white self was not, and then he got mad at Mr. Turner for his opinion. That seems like what most likely happened there. Let's keep going. According to the firm representing Mike Razor Buick GMC Cadillac Incorporated, that's a long company name. What? Wait, are Buick, GMC, and Cadillac all owned by the same people? What? Hold up. What is... Who's Mike Razor? What? Conglomerates, man. Okay, no, maybe that's just the name of the individual dealership. Yeah, because I'm getting a dealership in Lafayette. That must be it. So maybe it looks like that particular dealership. Do they just sell? No, because this wouldn't be the dealership he sued, because they were weren't they a Mercedes dealership? Because we even saw the picture in the video. But then here you have the lawsuit. Turner, that's the black guy, versus Mike Razor Buick GMC Cadillac Incorporated. Mercedes. Okay, maybe they also sell Mercedes, but that's the name of this dealership that sells, named by some guy, or named after or owned by some guy named Mike Razor, that sells Buicks, GMs, Cadillacs, and Mercedes. Okay, but anyway, that's it looks like that's just the dealership there. But anyway, according to the firm representing the dealership, right, Mike Razor Buick GMC Cadillac Incorporated, Razor, it looks like that's the name of the boss, Mike Razor, acknowledged using a phrase with a racist term during a sales meeting. He claims the statement was only used once, and it was not made in reference to Razor's African American customers or employees. And I say that is BS, because usually if a white person in this kind of situation said something racist, but they only said it maybe once, or they didn't say it at all, they just outright deny saying it. They'll just be like, nah, I didn't say it. I never said anything. They'll talk about how they have a black friend, all this stuff. But here, he admitted to using a racist term. He's just trying to say it was only one instance, and it wasn't in reference to particular people. That my gut tells me that means that what Jeffrey Turner was saying was spot on. This guy was probably throwing out that N-word left, right, and center, and he was using it to refer to individuals and customers. So that's just what my gut says, because usually if it's not that bad, a white person is just gonna outright deny having said anything at all. Anyway, let's keep going. The federal lawsuit filed in the Indianapolis division of the Southern District of Indiana seeks damages and a trial by jury. I worked very long and hard to attain that position. I wasn't about to quit, said Turner. Very interesting statement, something I'll come back to at the end. Put a pin in that, right? Let me reread it. I worked very long and hard to attain that position. I wasn't about to quit, said Turner. Instead, Turner was fired 2 years ago. Their mantra is the best or nothing, but at this particular moment, I don't think they're the best, said Turner, alleging that despite being a top performer with outstanding performance awards, he was fired for reporting allegations that the dealership's owner, Mike Razor, frequently used the N-word. He said it multiple times, like 6 or 7 times, said Turner, describing an alleged incident 2 years ago where he claims Razor used the term, right? So obviously this guy really wanted to hold on to his job, but he also wanted to do the right thing a bit. And at the end, they fired him because he was still rocking the boat too much. And he's saying that they're not living up to, their stated motto, right, of just being the best. Obviously, if you're being racist, you're not actually the best. Although, unfortunately, in a lot of white people's minds, racism is the best. Okay? And that's why they fired the black guy here instead of changing things. Right? Let's keep going. When others heard it too, Turner says they excused it with, quote unquote, Mr. Razor, he's old and he was raised in a different generation than we are. He didn't mean anything by it, Turner claims other employees told him. And my guess is that these other employees were white, or at least just not black. It's possible some of them were black, because we do unfortunately have sellouts among us. But it seems most likely they would have been white, or at least non-black, excusing that. Because obviously, if you're black and you're not a sellout, you'd never excuse something like that. Okay, you just can't. Let's keep going. Turner also claims his boss lashed out in front of him regarding the NFL controversy surrounding African American players kneeling during the national anthem. In a letter to the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, the dealership's attorney denies Razor violated any employment laws or used the phrase. The letter says Razor used the phrase, quote unquote, an N-word in the woodpile one time in a meeting, but it was not directed at Turner. So again, even the fact that they have to admit using it in some form, like that crazy phrase, that tells me that it, the truth is probably closer to what Turner was saying than what they're saying, right? Because even if what they're saying is true, this is still not acceptable. You can't just go around throwing out, crazy phrases like that with they have racial slurs and racist histories. When you're around black people or around anyone for that matter. So, yeah, let's keep going. Eyewitness News called the office of the attorney that sent the letter. We were told they no longer represented Razor. Okay, this is what we heard in the video. When Eyewitness News contacted Razor directly via phone about the lawsuit, he told us no comment. Okay, because he knows that if he talks about this a lot, he's going to look bad because he did wrong. So he's just preferring to not say anything at all. We also reached out to Mercedes-Benz and are still waiting to hear back. Turner is speaking out, though, claiming the issue is systemic and needs to change. It's a very good old boy network, said Turner. Okay, so that's it for the article. Rather short, but do got a lot to say about that. All right, so let me just see. First of all, do y'all have any questions or comments? Please send them. I can see the YouTube comments specifically, and then the comments on Facebook and Twitch. They just come as part of the multi-stream comment. So regardless, I will see your comments. So please, any questions, any comments, please send them through so we can have a dialogue. But if not, that's okay as well. I'll just keep going. But anyway, so overall, reading that article, there are really, I would say, two two or three. Let's call it two main things that jumped out to me, right? I think these are the two big takeaways. The first big takeaway has to do with um, Mercedes-Benz and white luxury goods corporations in general, right? That is white companies that sell luxury items and products in general, right? And that is that, these companies do not want black people to get their goods easily, if at all, right? These companies do not want black people to get their goods easily, if at all. And y'all might ask, why is that? That's for the simple reason that black people, under the system of white supremacy, are automatically seen as low class and worthless, right? It's not what we actually are. Although, I mean, obviously in terms of money, we have less money than any other group of people. So right now, due to the effects of really just Eurasian domination in general. But right now, it is white supremacy because the white people are on top. But Arabs got us before that. East Asians got us before that. Arabs and East Asians still getting us a bit, right? So everyone who's not black is in on it. But right now, it's primarily white people because they're at the top, right? So right now we do have less money and control of less resources than other groups of people. But that ain't inherent to our person, right? Because in the past we was rich, okay? And we can be rich again, right? So this idea that like no matter what, black people are gonna be poor is just wrong. And then even the idea that all black people right now are poor is wrong. Because sure, most of us are poor in terms of money, in terms of physical resources, but not all of us are, right? But unfortunately, right, under the system of white supremacy, under the system of Eurasian domination in general, they've pushed the idea that no matter what, black people are poor, black people are low class, and then even outside, like inherently, and then even outside of economics, or at least money, right? Because technically everything is economics, so that's a different conversation. But outside of just money, that we're just bad people, right? So because of that idea that has been spread and they want to keep alive, if a lot of black people have your product, then that product by association will also be seen as low class and bad, right? And these luxury goods companies, people selling luxury cars, luxury clothes, whatever, they want to keep their image up. They always want to be seen as the best of the best. They want to be selling things that everyone wants to buy, right? So in order to keep up that image, they can't have a lot of black people having their stuff. So that's why you see in cases like this Mercedes-Benz situation, you will see them charge black customers more, right? Because by charging black customers more, they're hoping that most of the black people, or maybe even all of the black people that come in to buy their stuff, just end up deciding against it. Like they might walk in thinking, ooh, I have the money for this, but then they see the price, they're like, what? That's what it costs? Okay, I'm out. Right? That's what they're hoping the black customers do. But then if the black customer ends up not doing that, if they have enough money for the higher price, then they've gotten more money, right? So basically, when your black self comes into a Mercedes-Benz and they give you a higher price, they are charging you an extra for the cost of, in their eyes, having to put their product on your dirty black behind. Okay? They're saying you wearing our product is a liability to us. You wearing our product hurts us. And because of that, we're going to charge you extra to make up for it. Okay? Because if this is Mercedes-Benz now talking, this is all these luxury companies now talking. They're saying, if I'm going to have my luxury goods on your dirty black behind, you better pay me extra to make it worth my while. That's what they're saying. Okay? And you know exactly how this pans out. It could be that each individual branch kind of decides what to do this and how much to do this on their own. Or it could be that there is an explicit order given from the top that everyone should do this, right? Which exact way that's done is actually what's happening. I don't know. You have to do some additional investigation to find out exactly how it plays out. But really, it's not that important to find out which way it is, because whether it's all the individual branches deciding to do it on their own, or the overall company telling all the dealerships to do it, the effect is the same. Black customers get charged more, and whichever way it is, you know that the higher ups endorse it, because when this guy went to the higher ups with this issue, as well as just the discrimination in the workplace, which I'm gonna get to, right? When he went to them with this issue, they ended up firing his black behind. Okay, if they really wanted to change it, they would have actually taken some steps against his boss and clamped down on that practice. But clearly they didn't, so they approve of it, right? And there's no evidence that that guy's boss ever suffered any sort of discipline from the organization before this lawsuit. It's possible maybe they've done something now that it's gone public to look better, but even that, there's no evidence of that. Like, the article didn't say anything about that, and I haven't read anything to suggest that, so they really don't seem to care. Okay? Then I think the other side of this, which is why I was thinking maybe I should have said three things, but we'll just say this is a subset of point one, is that this actually ends up really hurting financially the black people who do choose to buy Mercedes-Benz, right? Because we have less money than our white counterparts who come to buy these Mercedes-Benzes, right? Because black people in general obviously have less money than white people, right? But then they're charging us more, right? So the amount of economic damage that Mercedes-Benz purchase is doing to the black individuals who buy it and the black community in general is many times higher than any damage that would be done to the white community, right? And that it's stuff like this that ends up reducing our economic power relative to other races, right? Because let's say for the sake of argument that the average black white person going in to buy Mercedes-Benz has $1 million. The average black person going in to buy Mercedes-Benz has $700,000, right? Then they charge the white person $50K for Mercedes-Benz, for example. I'm just throwing that number out there. It could well be higher. I don't know the exact price of Mercedes, right? But let's say they charge the white person $50K and then they charge the black person $100K, right? They really, really just, because already to begin with, the white person was here in terms of economic power, the black person was here, right? But after they both bought a Mercedes-Benz, that gap goes way higher, okay? Right? And this hurts us a lot because obviously most black people ain't buying Mercedes-Benz, but again, the ones that do end up in this situation where their economic power gets stripped away, right? But then black people, unfortunately, you know, this happens to us with all sorts of goods, okay? Because even though we don't have the money, black people in America in particular, is different outside of America. Outside of America, black people ain't really buying luxury goods. There's just not the money. There's just not the access. I mean, maybe in other places in the West, but the places where most black people on the planet live, you know, just don't really, not a significant number of people are even able to get Gucci or whatever. But in America, right, a lot of black people buy these luxury goods, the Gucci, the Louis Vuitton. Maybe you buy a fancy car, right? Even something like Jordans, right? Those are really expensive shoes, right? You don't really have the money to be splurging like that, but we do it anyway, right? Because we feel we need these fancy things to validate us. Because we've been made to think we have no worth as people. And then we've also been made to think at the same time that these items that our enemies are selling to us are extremely full of worth. So we just think if I attach this item to myself, I will have the self-worth that I don't currently feel like I have, and other people will see me as worthy, right? So it's deep, okay? It's psychological, all right? But because of that, a lot of us are buying these luxury goods and we're getting overcharged for them relative to other races. So that really ends up hurting our economic position, right? And it's especially bad because very large percentage of all the money that black people have on this earth, it could even be the majority. I'd have to do the calculations, but it could even be a majority. But a lot of it is in the hands of black people in America, right? And when you don't have a lot of money, especially relative to people who are trying to delete you from planet Earth, right? And you in an economic as well as just general fight for your life, you need to use every dollar you have efficiently, right? But if those of us who have the money here in America ain't using them dollars efficiently, then we really hurting the whole race, okay? The amount of money that black people in America waste, right? And to be clear, there are other factors that are not our fault, that cause us to, you know, not use our money as well as we could in America, okay? Because let me be clear, I don't want to say that the only reason black people in America have not reached our economic potential is just because we're wasting money. That's not true. We know a lot of our money gets stolen. You know, there are a lot of times they don't allow us to build on the wealth we have, you know, as well as just the general physical and mental pressure on us. It makes it harder for you to make a good decision, okay? We know that. But nonetheless, right, we do end up wasting a lot of money here on things we don't need, on, you know, like fancy cars, fancy clothes, fancy gadgets, okay, instead of actually using it to meet our basic needs, and things of that nature. And then we especially don't spread our money around in an efficient enough way, right? Even just within the US. Don't even begin to talk about how we not spreading it to black people globally. The money black people get in the US, we should be sending all over the world to help you know, our brothers and sisters. At the very least, we should be using it to build things that can help our communities for generations, right? Or at least help us get to the next step in this fight we're in. But we ain't doing that, right? But anyway, I'm just saying all this to say that this Mercedes-Benz situation is just one small example to see what's going on with black people in America and black people in general on a larger scale when it comes to these luxury goods and luxury companies. So I think the question we then have to ask is that if it's doing this much damage to us and the people who own these companies are so committed to hurting us like this, why do we then continue to go and patronize these places? And again, I want to say, like, obviously most black people aren't buying Mercedes-Benz, okay? And even though a lot of us are buying luxury goods, maybe it's even true that it's less than 50%. If it's less than 50%, it is a large minority. It's a problem, but maybe it's less than 50%. But certainly, regardless, excuse me here while I find my laptop charger. Certainly, regardless, it ain't all of us, right? So I don't want to say that all of us, are buying from these companies that are exploiting us. And I also don't want to say that, the fact that a lot of us are buying products from these companies is the whole cause of our economic problems. It ain't at all. It ain't at all. But it is a big part of it, right? So given this reality, we got to ask ourselves, why do so many of us continue to buy from these companies? If Mercedes-Benz is scamming you, which is what these people are doing, if Mercedes-Benz is scamming you and that scam is hurting your economic position when you in a fight for your life, why are you even going to Mercedes-Benz? Why? We don't need a Mercedes to survive, right? And look, perhaps if you as a black person are really, really rich, you just happen to like the Mercedes and it really doesn't hurt you much as an individual, and then you are genuinely using your money to help your community. You're not just packing it for yourself like some selfish MFer, okay? If you doing that and you want to treat yourself, because every once in a while as human beings, we do need to treat ourselves. You want to treat yourself with a Mercedes-Benz? Okay, maybe you can do it. But I don't think the vast majority of us, even those with enough money to even consider buying Mercedes-Benz, are at that level. Because let's be real, a lot of us we might have enough money total in our bank account to buy a Mercedes-Benz, but if you really consider what we should be spending our money on, we don't have enough. By that I mean, sure, maybe the Mercedes-Benz cost at the marked up black rate, maybe it costs $100K, and you have $150K in your bank account, for example. But then all your other expenses are costing you $100K, so you really shouldn't be looking at that Mercedes-Benz, right? But then a lot of us in that situations will go buy the Mercedes-Benz and be struggling to cover the other expenses, right? Because we value the validation we get from owning that Mercedes-Benz more than we value food, more than we value water, more than we value our own health, okay? I'm pretty sure black people spend more money on cars and on taking care of our own health, okay? I'll stand by that. If anyone has the stats to prove me wrong, okay? I'm open to correction, but from what I've seen, I think we spend more money on cars than healthcare, okay? So most of us are not in a position really to buy a Mercedes-Benz. And even for those of us that are, right, you have to consider if these people are mass exploiting your own people, and this is not something you need, and then also buying this as a status symbol then reinforces the idea that this is an ultimate good. This is a luxury good. The idea that this is something for the best of the best, right? if you're gonna reinforce that idea, even if you can get it, is it worth it? Because there is a negative to that. You know, why buy the Mercedes instead of trying to create your own black-owned car company that doesn't overcharge us? Why not create your own black luxury goods company? Or heck, even is the concept of luxury goods even is it inherently anti-black? You know what I mean? I mean that's a deep convo for another day, perhaps. But these are all things to think about, right? Right. The whole thing I'm trying to get at here is that what this Mercedes-Benz situation exposes is that we as a community, and especially the individuals in the community who are going to Mercedes-Benz and getting scammed like this, the individuals in our community who are going to other luxury goods companies and getting scammed like this, we really need to take a good another look at our spending habits and take a good look in the mirror, right? Because the fact that this is happening to us shows that there's not something that it's not right with us, right? Because if we were really right, we wouldn't even be in that position in general, okay? So that's part one of that, right? That's part one. These companies don't want us to buy their goods unless we pay extra because they feel like us owning the goods drags them down. And us buying the goods hurts us as a community and as individuals. And because of that, we really need to question whether or not we should even be buying those goods, okay? That's point one. All right. Point two, you know what? I think I'll get rid of the screen capture because I thought, actually, no, there is one other, related to point one, there is one other stat I wanted to look for. That's why I had my screen capture still open, because I heard some stats about Mercedes-Benz, that I've heard that we buy more Mercedes-Benz than any other race. I'm kind of skeptical of that. That sounds a little it sounds hard to believe, but I've heard it, so I just wanted to see if that was true or not. Mercedes-Benz customers by race. I spell it right, wrong. No, it looks like this is talking about no, this is talking about the employees. What race buys the most Mercedes-Benz? Here we go. That. Oops. I also wanted to see this. What race? The most common. No, this is still talking about. Okay, it's not really easy. Let's see. Which race buys the most Mercedes? Okay, this info ain't really easy to find. I thought I could find something quick, perhaps, but I couldn't. But let me guys know if y'all know which race buys the most Mercedes-Benz. I would think it is white people, but maybe we're overrepresented among Mercedes-Benz customers, even. But because I've heard some things about that, but I just wanted to see if I could get exact statistics. So I thought that could be relevant to our convo, but I couldn't find any. But if any of y'all know the statistics, please let me know. Say in the chat. And then after this, at some point, I'll probably look into that, and that might be part of a future live stream as well, right? But anyway, let's go into point 2. Let me just make my face big again. But let me go into point 2 here before I wrap up, right? And that's about the work environments, okay? Because that guy, Jeffrey Turner, talked about the discrimination he faced. And again, my heart goes out to the man. You know, may he heal from that. That was 3 years ago that article was written, and it looks like 5 years ago since it happened. He said he was fired 2 years before that article was written, right? So hopefully he's healed by now. If not, at least he's on the path to healing. I hope he's not in that position again, right? But what came up for me there was that this is another example of why black people need to stop working in mostly white environments. Okay, and long term, we need to get to a place where we don't need to work by any companies that are owned by other races, right? Because we know they're all hostile to us, right? Because what happened there is this man, he went in to Mercedes-Benz and he worked very hard to get his job, right? Because already we know what they say. You have to work twice as hard as a white person to get half as much, right? So to even get hired at Mercedes-Benz, this man probably went through hell, okay? But then when he got there, he found that that environment was not nice. They're throwing the N-word at him. He's seeing they're discriminating against his people. He doesn't like it. At that point, what he should have done was left or made a plan to leave ASAP, right? At that point, what he should have done was left or made a plan to leave ASAP, right? Because it is not healthy to be in an environment that is racist for a long period of time, okay? Because even if the money you're getting is good, right? At least the check you're getting is good, it's going to break you down physically and spiritually. And at the end, you're going to have to pay that cost on the back end when your medical bills are high, you know, when you have a heart attack early, okay, when you're irritable around your spouse and your kids, your relationships break down, you know, like it just won't work, right? So that price is never worth it. But because he was being stubborn, and a lot of us do this. I've done this in the past myself, right? So I'm not saying this as a holier than thou, but because he was stubborn, right? Because he had it in his mind, that keeping that job was a good thing no matter what. So he said, you know, because I've worked for it, okay? Because again, this is what they call, I mean, the fancy term they use for an academic settings is the sunk cost fallacy. And what does that mean? That's just a fancy way of saying when you wrongly assume that just because you already paid a price for something, you have to keep going with it, all right? Because any price you've paid in the past is the past. Okay, if you pay $100 for something, you already paid that $100. It's gone. That $100 ain't helping you, right? So if you pay $100 for something and, you know, what's a good example? Let's say you paid $100 for a used car, right? Let's say you paid $100 for a used car, but the thing is clearly breaking down. It's dangerous. It's looking like it's going to stop on the road and get you into an accident. But you say, man, I already paid $100 for this. Let me keep going with the car because it'll be worth it. That don't make no sense because that $100 is gone. That $100 you paid is gone, right? And right now that dirty used car you have is hurting you, okay? It's going to stop on the road and get you deleted, right? So the best thing for you to do is to just leave that car behind, okay? You ain't gonna get the $100 back just because you driving that beat up thing, okay? But a lot of us in that position keep doing that. And what this brother did by staying in that job at that racist white corporation is like continue to drive in that beat up old $100 used car. Okay? And so many of us do it. The minority of us who have the opportunity to work in these white collar jobs, in these mostly white settings where the pay is higher, but they kill your soul more. All right? Those of us who work in those settings, we operate with these mindsets. And it gets us hurt. Because clearly this man was hurt psychologically by what his boss and then his coworkers who didn't push back on the boss did. And then at the end, even after he suffered all that, they fired his behind anyway. Okay? Because he tried to make it a little better, but he also tried to keep his job. They fired him anyway. Right? And there are lots of cases where a black person will do even less than he did in terms of resisting, and they still get fired anyway. Because at the end of the day, these white people and all these Eurasians, all these people, other races, Middle Eastern, Asian, whatever, none of them care about us. If they even let you be around them 99% of the time, it's just because you're useful. But once you stop being useful, they're going to throw you away like an empty bottle of toothpaste. And that's what happened with this man here. That's what happened. Right? So I'm just saying all this to say that this case, this story of our brother, Mr. Jeffrey Turner, is another example of why you should never be afraid to leave a racist white work environment. You should never be afraid. Really, you shouldn't even go there in the first place, right? But if you find yourself in that situation, never be afraid to leave it, because staying is never worth it. They will either destroy you mentally or physically, fire you eventually, or both, right? And this is also why long term we gotta work to have more strong, independent black businesses, okay? So that those of us who are meant to be leaders and bosses are running our own stuff, and the rest of us who are meant to be followers are actually following and working for people who care about our well-being, okay? So anyway, that's the main point I wanted to make, and that's really all I got. And if there are no other questions and comments, and it doesn't look like there are, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you all who joined me on YouTube. Thank everyone who joined me on Facebook. Thank everyone who joined me on Twitch. Thank everyone who's gonna watch this on replay in the future. Okay, the replay is gonna eventually be up on Instagram. It's gonna be up on we got Rumble. We got it just about everywhere, right? We got a bunch of platforms. All right. So yeah. Thank you all so much. Again, please like the video, share it with people you know. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on another platform, follow or subscribe, whatever the term is on the platform. I'm saying this because I'm literally on like dozens of platforms, y'all. So I don't remember the term they use on each platform, but I know I'm on it. Okay, just any platform you can think of. Just look up Chimoge's comments. I'm probably there. Okay, because I just want to make sure I get my message to you by any means necessary. All right. But yeah, please like, share the video, and then subscribe to the channel or follow it. If you're on YouTube, also hit the bell icon, because then whenever I put out a video, you'll get notified. I'm also on TikTok. Shorter clips go off on TikTok. Follow me there. But yeah. And then also please consider joining my Patreon. I have hold up. Sorry, I just realized it looks like I put in the YouTube comment with my other YouTube account, which is not what I wanted to do. I just realized that. Hold up. This live has been on Chimoge's comments, right? Yeah, I'm live on Chim. Okay. Well, that's a little minor inconvenient. Don't know why. Hold up. Sorry, y'all. Let me just make sure I send in the comments with the right YouTube channel. That's better. But anyway, the whole reason I'm trying to comment in the YouTube live chat is because I also want to put my Patreon, the link to my Patreon, as well as the link to, my donation link tree, in the chat, just so y'all can support, if you so wish. And if you join the Patreon, there'll be exclusive content going on there. I'm working on the Patreon, but there will be some exclusive content on there, as well as some exclusive privileges. There's merch, right? You can get like shirts and mugs, things of that nature. So please sign up for the Patreon as well. Let me just put those links in the chat. So the link to the Patreon is now in the chat. And then the link to support me, donations, I'm also putting in there. And also, if you're on Twitch, you can also hit the donate button on Twitch, on the donate panel there. You could either do a one-time or recurring donation. And of course, the donation, it's not for any, you're not going to get anything like a product directly from that, but hopefully that you find, the show I've put on worth a donation. So thank you so much for those of you who have donated and who are going to donate. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else? Only thing is I also remembered I forgot to put the thumbnail on this again. I made the thumbnail. I just forgot to actually put it up on the video. I just realized that. I'll do that right after I get off. But anyway, y'all like the thumbnail too. But yeah, that's all for folks. Thank you all so much. Do these live streams every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time plus African Time. That's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time plus African Time. So tune in at that time every Tuesday. Hope to see you all next Tuesday.